Corruption, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Billions of your taxpayers' money have been embezzled. They're gone. They're finished. They're not coming back. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, because the government have got a cunning plan to raise your taxes, to send more money overseas for more embezzlement, more corruption, more embezzlement. That is the direction of travel we are going in the United Kingdom right now. So I'm going to focus this morning's live stream initially on the breaking scandal in Ukraine. Billions are missing. The Ukrainian government is in free fall. There's a corruption scandal of biblical proportions, ladies and gentlemen. So before we get started, I just want to qualify for you guys why I should be talking about this and why I know what I'm talking about. So this guy that's just resigned in Ukraine, the Ukrainian chief of staff, I used to work for the previous Ukrainian chief of staff. Now, when I say I used to work for him, I don't mean I just used to work for him ad hoc. I was, I was a really good friend of his. I was on first name terms with him. I could phone him up. I could go into his office whenever I wanted. So, and so I do understand the inner workings of this scandal. And look, guys, if you live in the United Kingdom right now, this is your money. It is. It's your money. This is your money that's been embezzled. So, we're all having to, make sacrifices and buckle down because of the war in Ukraine. Well, it turns out, a lot of this money has been embezzled. Now, look, guys, I'll give you guys an exclusive update later on in the day. What I'm going to do in this live stream is I'm just going to talk about what's happened now as per the mainstream media. But look, guys, I did tell you guys like a long time ago, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I said to you guys, ladies and gentlemen, there is a scandal about to break in Ukraine regarding the energy sector. I said that. I don't know what live stream it was on. I've said it on a few live streams. Go check that out. And if you're on now, ladies and gentlemen, you can remember me saying that, just put it in the chat. Just put it in the chat so other people know I'm not waffling. So I'm just going to give you guys an outline of this. And look, here in the United Kingdom, there's a lot of people struggling financially. There's a lot of people struggling financially in the United Kingdom right now. And I don't think it's fair that we're sending money to pay for people's ski resorts. I don't think it's fair we're sending money to pay for, I do think it's fair, that people, that we shouldn't have a situation in the world where might is right, guns, tanks, bombs, trains, and automobiles are driving in. But just conceptualize this, guys, all right? Do you know what? I should probably change this title. Just conceptualize this. We have sent billions, and I don't just mean the United Kingdom, I mean the whole world has sent absolutely billions to Ukraine. We've got Keir Starmer demanding boots on the ground. So we're sending billions to Ukraine to fight a war. That's being funneled off into people's back pockets. And now we're going to have to send our young men over there. Does that sound fair to you guys? Does that sound fair? It doesn't sound fair, does it? So a major corruption scandal has erupted in Ukraine involving allegations. Remember, guys, okay, this is allegations at the moment. There's nothing been proven, but I did tell you this was coming. Allegations of embezzlement in the country's energy sector culminated in the resignation of Andriy Yermak, President Zelensky's chief of staff and one of his closest allies. Yermak, often described as Zelensky's man for all seasons due to his influence on domestic policy, foreign affairs, and wartime negotiations, stepped down on November the 28th, like yesterday, shortly after anti-corruption investigators searched his home and office in Kiev. This development has sent shockwaves through Ukraine's government, especially as it coincides with the sensitive US-led peace talks aimed at ending Russia's invasion. I think this is going to happen, guys. I do. I think this is going to happen. And look, when we talk about a ceasefire, there's no such thing as a ceasefire. What this means is boots on the ground. The scandal centers on a scheme allegedly involving misappropriation of around 100 million from Energatom. Now, look, I'm just saying this now. I think when they really peel back the skin on this, there's going to be billions. It's not going to be 100 million here, a couple of million there. It's going to be billions. They're going to make Afghan corrupt. Well, do you know what? I'm going to give you guys a better update later on. Ukraine's Energatom, which is Ukraine's state-owned nuclear energy company, which is vital for the country's power grid amid wartime blackouts and infrastructure attacks. Again, guys, listen, I told you this is where we were going like a couple of weeks ago. Ukrainian authorities, including the National Anti-Corruption Bureau and the Specialist Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, revealed the plot on November the 10th, 2025, accusing senior officials of skimming funds through inflated contracts for nuclear fuel procurement and other deals. It's almost like I told you this was coming. Yermak is not the only high-profile figure implicated. The probe has ensnared other Zelensky associates, including the second negotiator involved in the US peace talks, and has led to arrests in the energy ministry. Now, look, one thing that makes this absolutely sickening for me, as in a previous life, I was a private soldier in the military, literally right on the front line, right out there at the front. I know there are young men and women fighting, paying with blood, and then all the way back you get these corrupt officials, and they're just skimming off the top. And ultimately, the people that pay for this are the frontline soldiers. So when we talk about war and conflicts, I do get quite upset about this sort of stuff. So I want to give you guys a broader context now of Ukraine, and then I will come on to how much I'll come on to what I know personally from my experience working with the UK Foreign Office, working with the Ukrainian government. And I will tell you this now, guys. All right, there's different types of corruption, and it's not always what you think. There's a lot of cock-ups that get. There's a lot of cock-ups that are corruption. There's a lot of money that's being made and it's not corruption, and it looks like corruption and it's just not. So when we talk about corruption, it's unless you've lived it and been in those situations, people who are on the outside, they're looking, they're thinking, why is that person making so much money? And you're like, they need to make that much money. And then you look at it, you look at other things and you think, what's going on there? And, there's cock-ups, there's incompetence, all these things, but ultimately, I think what we're talking about here is corruption in the energy sector. So Ukraine has grappled with systemic corruption for decades, I would say even longer, a legacy of its post-Soviet oligarchic structures that predate like 2014. Ukraine's been corrupt for a long time. But that's just how it works. That is literally how it works. The full-scale Russian invasion in February 22 intensified these issues. Billions in Western military aid, humanitarian aid have flowed into the country, but wartime scrutiny and the fog of war has created opportunities for graft, for inflated procurement prices, for division of funds meant for the front lines. Transparency International ranked Ukraine 104 out of 180 countries on its corruption perception index, which is an improvement from its pre-war status. So the NABU, established in 2015 with the US and EU backing, plays a central role here. And it's an independent body designed to target the elite level corruption, often collaborating with Federal Bureau of FBI and Western agencies. Critics, including some Ukrainian officials, obviously they're going to criticize it, argue that the NABU's autonomy borders on foreign interference. And look, what I will say on this, if you're taking, if the Ukrainians are complaining about foreign interference, fine. We don't need to send you any more money. We don't, right? You don't want foreign interference? Fine. We won't send you any more money. We won't send you any more guns. We won't send you any more tanks. If you don't want foreign interference, we won't send any more money. If you want foreign interference, money, tanks, guns, bombs, trains, planes, automobiles, manpower supply. If you want foreign interference, then we kind of want to know where our money's being spent. I'm going to tell you something that happened to me when I was working with the Foreign Office in 2022. I will come on to that after this, guys. Okay, so. Yeah, so the Ukrainian politicians have basically been saying that the NABU's autonomy borders on foreign interference, while supporters hail it as proof of Ukraine's maturing democratic institutions, even during the war that can hold the power accountable. This case isn't seen as a litmus test if it's result in prosecutions without political interference. It could bolster Ukraine's EU assertion bid. If not, it risks deepening the cynicalism in battlefield losses. Public reactions has been polarized. Some Ukrainians view Yermak's ousted as a victory for accountability, crediting street protests earlier in 2025 that defended the NABU's independence. So look, this would be like in the United Kingdom, this would be like an independent body coming into the United Kingdom and saying, just looking through everything, looking where all this money is going, looking at corruption, looking what's being spent here, what's being spent there. And you've got to understand why the Ukrainians, and I mean like the rank and file Ukrainians on the streets, why they're so angry. Their sons, their daughters are going away and fighting a war while their politicians allegedly are skimming money off the top. And remember, guys, okay, this is European money. This is British money. This is American money. So it is going down with a swizzle, guys. It is going down with a swizzle. Good morning, everyone. Millie Mono is saying, I wish someone would investigate this government. Right, I'm going to talk real quick about corruption. Now, there's, and I want to talk about, something that everybody understands. And I just want to give you guys an alternate perspective of this, okay? So, can you guys remember in the crazy times of 2020, yeah, 2020, like 5 years ago, seems like a lifetime ago. Can you guys remember the crazy times of 2020 when the whole world was struggling for PPE, face masks, coveralls? You guys can remember that, right? I think it was Boris Johnson's government, and it turns out they awarded contracts to all their friends. Yeah, you guys can remember that, right? And their friends billed exceptionally high and made a shit ton of money. You guys can remember that, right? Yeah. And we all think that's corruption, right? Yeah. Okay. Let me give you guys another dynamic of this. Okay. So I've been there in those situations where you need shit quick. All right. I've been there when you need stuff quick. Now, just put yourself in that situation, guys. All right. I'm talking about United Kingdom corruption now. The PPE scandal, how Labour blew it out and said, oh, Boris Johnson's giving contracts to his mates and they're all plundering the system dry. That may have been the case, all right? I'm just going to give you guys an alternate perspective on this. So imagine that you're there, you've got this global pandemic, and it is, all over the news, whether you believe it or not. I believe they believed it at that time. Hospitals are being overwhelmed. There's no ventilators. There's no masks. There's no eye protection, and you're like, oh, fuck. We need this shit quick. All right. You need it quick. Are you realistically going to put that shit out to tender? Are you going to send that to your contracts department and then get them to write a tender? And then maybe in 6 weeks' time, that tender will be online. And then maybe you get everybody to respond to that tender. And then that tender gets scrutinized. And maybe in about 3 or 4 months' time, you allocate those funds. Are you really going to do that? Absolutely not. You're not going to do that. If you've got a guy standing there saying, Boris, mate, I can get you this PPE now. You're going to go, here's some money, go and get it now. Like en masse. That's what you're going to do, right? That's what you're going to do. You're not going to wait 3 or 4 months to let this go through. You're going to have to sign some decree or some document that gets that, because you can't put that out to tender, right? Am I right on that, guys, or am I wrong? Or do you think if the government had said, yep, we've got no PPE, but we're going to wait for this tender to come through because we need it to be done right, you know? Of course, you're going to give it to whoever are there. You're going to give it to whoever's there right now telling you that they can get it. That's the reality, right? Now, that guy or woman or that company, and I get this, guys, you know, and I would say a lot of money has been embezzled, but I've been on that situation where people have come to me and said, right, Sean, I need this. Can you do it? And I've said, yes, but I'm going to have to inflate the price. Now, the reason that price needs to be inflated, because there could be a fuck up, and when we're talking this amount of kit and equipment and there's a fuck up, I need to deal with that fuck up. So I need enough money in reserve to deal with that fuck up. Now, I don't know what those fuck ups are going to be. I don't know what those fuck ups are going to be. You know, if you're importing, I don't know, 10,000 tourniquets from America through Europe to Kiev, for whatever, that's something I've done, right? You need to overprice for those tourniquets because you may have to go and pay someone off at customs. Yeah, you may have to go and pay someone off at customs, guys. And you can complain about corruption. That's just the way it works. You know, you may have misread some small print and you may need to pay an extra fee. You may need to do something. You may need to send drivers out there. And, you know, if you lowball that offer, the whole deal's going to fall through. The whole deal's going to fall through. So to guarantee that product, you inflate that price. It's industry standard. Now, I'm not saying that every price inflation, you know, I'm not saying every price inflation is legitimate, because I know people do price gouge, and I've met people. I've met people who I would not listen. You guys have been. I've not been to Ukraine for a while. And the reason I've not been to Ukraine for a while is the vast amounts of corruption, and the people I work with, they won't go. They're not interested, you know. Right, let me jump up and get some comments, guys, okay? Shaky is saying 100% of the elite escort agency. What? Right, I don't... What? I don't even know what this means. Look, guys, I get some... Right, I don't know what this means. 100%... Right. You caught me off guard here. I don't read these comments before I chuck them up, guys, okay? I don't know what that means. Right, I don't know what that means, guys. I don't know what that means. I don't... Look, I'm not going to say that thing doesn't... What you just said there, I'm not going to say that doesn't exist. I'm going to say that I'm getting cognitive dissonance right now. You guys know I've talked about cognitive dissonance before. Mezzolere is saying in April 2023, Pulitzer winning journalist Seymour Harsh alleged Xenion Crozes embezzled $400 million in US aid. Ladies and gentlemen, like, there's going to be a lot more of this come out. I'll give you guys an exclusive update later on today. I just want to focus on what's out at the moment, what's out on the mainstream, and then later on today I will give you guys an update. Miss Chloe Celeste says capitalism doesn't stop because of a pandemic. Christine Chambers is saying Starmer is a human rights lawyer, not a politician, working for the elites to push the agenda. Can you, guys, listen, if you want to know what Starmer's really like, can you remember his interviews in, his interviews where he was wanting to push down really draconian measures on people and like force people into their homes? We talk about safety, but then safety at what cost? And I think Boris Johnson, I mean, they got, listen, guys, they got rid of, look, guys, you can say what you want about Boris. I liked Boris. I think they got rid of him because he knew what the scam was and he wouldn't play along. That's why I think they got rid of Boris. Let me jump down. Silly Gallardi is saying ordinary people of Ukraine don't get a chance. It's so sad. Yeah, listen, guys, we're talking about the corruption scandal that's breaking in Ukraine right now. And Silly is absolutely right. You know, the ordinary people of Ukraine, you know, and one of the sad things I saw, well, not sad, it was when the 2022 invasion happened. I was on the ground in Ukraine and hang on. Can you hear that rain? We've got an epic rain at the moment. So when the 2022 invasion of Ukraine happened, I was out on the ground. We was making a film. We was reporting on it, and you can go and watch that. It's on the I think it's on I think it went on Channel 4. I don't know. I'll figure it out. I can't remember. I've not actually seen it. Anyway, forget that. So one of the things that I was amazed at is you had ordinary people, like ordinary Ukrainian people. I'm talking like just normal workers now, spending their own money, not government money, spending their own money. You had old women in like little sewing shops making camouflage nets, just doing it off their own back, you know, for free. You had people buying hunting rifles from the store and making their own checkpoints, securing their own areas. And they were doing that out of their own pockets. Now, if you if you fast forward now and we can look back, at the same time, you have these people in government who are embezzling money and making the poorest pay. And, you know, it really does grip me, guys. It really does grip me. Boris' initial instincts about COVID were correct. He was, guys. Boris was absolutely correct. Look, let me try and get this video, and I'll show. I wasn't going to do this. Give me a second. So Boris Johnson did a. This is going to chill you. This will chill your bones, ladies and gentlemen. This will chill your bones. Right. You know, it might have even been removed. I think it was at the United Nations. Hang on. Right, I can't find it. But Boris Johnson in 2019, just before the pandemic broke, he gave a speech at the United Nations warning about artificial intelligence and government overreach. I'm just trying to find the speech now. You guys, I think he was at the United Nations. I can't. Ah, here we are. Here we are. Right, I'm going to share this with you now, guys. How do I do this? Give me a second. Yeah. Right, so this speech right now, guys, is what I believe got Boris, you know, this is what I believe got Boris kicked out of government.
It's from your friends. You may keep your secrets from your friends, from your parents, your children.
Just for context for you guys, he gave this speech just before just before the pandemic broke. I think this was in September 2019, and COVID-19 was announced in like November or December. Now, listen to this speech. This will chill you guys. I promise you, this will chill you. And as far as I'm concerned, this speech got him, this is what got him ousted. Because whoever's in charge do not want somebody who thinks like this in charge.
Children, your doctor, even your personal trainer. But it takes real effort to conceal your thoughts. From Google, smart cities will pullulate with sensors, all joined together by the Internet of Things. Bollards communing invisibly with lampposts, so there is always a parking space for your electric car, and the urban environment is as antiseptic as a Zurich pharmacy. A future Alexa will pretend to take orders, but this Alexa will be watching you, clucking her tongue and stamping her foot. Your mattress will monitor your nightmares. Your fridge will beep for more cheese. Your front door will sweep wide the moment you approach like some silent butler. Are we doomed to a cold and heartless future in which computer says yes or computer says no, with the grim finality of an emperor in the arena? AI. What will it mean? Helpful robots washing and caring for an aging population, or pink-eyed terminators sent back from the future to cull the human race?
Yeah, he just said that. He just said that.
For an aging population, or pink-eyed terminators sent back from the future to cull the human race? What will synthetic biology stand for? Restoring our livers and our eyes with miracle regeneration of the tissues like some fantastic hangover cure? Or will it bring terrifying limbless chickens to our tables? Will nanotechnology help us to beat disease, or will it leave tiny robots to replicate in the crevices of our souls? It is.
So he's talking about nanotechnology.
Will nanotechnology help us to beat disease, or will it leave tiny robots to replicate in the crevices of our souls? It is a trope as old as literature that any scientific advance is punished by the gods. When Prometheus brought fire to mankind in a tube of fennel, as you may remember, with his brother Epimetheus, Zeus punished him by chaining him to a Tartarian crag while his liver was pecked out. I talked about a hangover cure. His liver was pecked out by an eagle, and every time his liver regrew, the eagle came back and pecked it again. And this went on forever. A bit like the experience of Brexit.
I'm gonna close it there, guys. I mean, Boris is mad as a fish. He's mad as a fish, but like he nailed that. He absolutely nailed that speech. Now, I believe that is the speech that got him ousted as the British Prime Minister. If you listen to that speech now, it makes perfect sense what he was warning us about. It makes absolute perfect sense what he was warning us about. I did, guys. I love Boris. I love Boris. Oh, hang on a minute. King 77703 is saying Boris is a World Economic Forum puppet. Okay, well, I don't think it. Look, guys, I don't know. I don't know. What I will say is, if he is, how come they got him out of the? How come they got him out of the? How come they got him out of government if he was a WEF puppet? Millie Mono is saying, blimey, he wasn't wrong. He wasn't. Like when I listened to that speech now, I mean, that was in 2019. When I listened 6 years ago, when I listened to that, almost 7. When I listen to that speech now, it absolutely sends chills down my bones, guys. And chills down my bones. Right, let me jump down. And get the bottom. James is saying people get sunstroke, flu symptoms from the sun caused by microwave radiation. People get sunstroke, flu symptoms from the sun caused by microwave radiation. 5G creates another microwave field. Okay, right, guys. I don't know. Yeah. Boris is vastly intelligent, guys. Boris is vastly intelligent. Silly is saying, what a great team he would have been, Trump and Boris. It would have, they'd have been able to share hairstylists. Boris was a little bit strange, but absolutely correct. Look, guys, can we not bring back Boris? Can we not bring back Boris? And Debbie is saying, look at them all laughing and smirking. There were people laughing. Listen, guys, I'm not going to lie to you. I've done a few speeches where I've seen people laughing and smirking. Yes, I have. I've done a few speeches where people have been laughing and smirking. But, I don't think those same people, when we talk about nanotechnology, when we're talking about limbless chickens, when we're talking about, where we are going with technology, artificial intelligence. I mean, I watched I don't know if you guys have seen this. I watched AI has done a remake of Predator, and I think Predator is probably one of the for me the best. The most. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger's top 2 films are. He's done so many. Predator's certainly up there. Anyway, somebody's remade Predator, but with Elvis as the Arnold Schwarzenegger role. And it's in the 50s. It's fucking wild. Now, to watch that, you can tell a little bit, but at some point, I might, I think I'll do a standalone live stream on AI. But what I'm getting here is with how AI has gone, higher, how the evolution, of AI and the advancement of artificial intelligence. I can remember doing a live stream when ChatGPT first got released, and I said, this is the end to movies. Because what people will do now is rather than go to the movies, they will tell their AI to make them a movie. Now, sorry guys, I'm going off on a side quest. What I'm getting at here is we're going to be in a place very soon. We're going to be in a stage very soon where we're going to be in a stage very soon where we don't know what we're seeing on the TV. We're going to see things on the TV and we're going to be like, right, is that AI? Is that real? And likewise, the opposite way of that, we will see things on the TV, it will be real, and they will say, no, it's AI. So we really are in this post-truth world at the moment. 100% English quality. I don't know what this name is. 23545BC. Right, I've got a bird on my roof. Be gone! Back to whence thou came! Sorry, guys, I've got where the roof is, when it rains and it's massively raining, little pools of water. And the birds come and drink off them. It was obviously Boris had something to his head. No one would do what he's done otherwise. Shaky Jakey is saying the finale is when they link us all to the internet of bodies, and you can't stop what's becoming because we are that something. I mean, can you imagine it first? Listen, ladies and gentlemen, this live stream is going down a total different direction. Okay? The crux of this live stream is, you know, the billions missing in Ukraine. The Ukrainian government is in free fall. The corruption scandal is breaking, and this could bring down Zelensky. Later on today, I'm going to give you guys an exclusive update on what's happening on the ground in Ukraine from my sources. What qualifies me to talk about this with such granular precision? So the guy, the chief of staff that's just resigned in Ukraine, I used to work for the previous chief of staff, Andrei Taranov, under the previous government. So I do understand the workings of government. I do understand what this means. Now, his house was raided, not the last one because he's dead. The new one, his house was raided, and I'm speculating that they've found absolute concrete evidence that he's been swizzling. He's been skimming, he's been swizzling. Now, the numbers they're talking about is 100 million. And guys, listen, I'm saying that 100 million is a fly in the ointment. That's a drop in the ocean to the amount of money that's been swizzled. Now, again, when I was out there in 20, I will come on to Shaky Jakey's comment in a second. When I was working out there in, hang on, can I say this? Yeah, fuck it. So when I was working out there in, when I was out there operating out there in 2022, I was working to a contact in the Foreign Office, and some of the things I said to him, I said, listen, mate, a lot of this kit and equipment isn't getting to where it's supposed to go. And what they were telling me is, listen, Sean, we know it's not going where it should be going, but we need to keep sending it anyway because a percentage is getting to where it needs to keep going. And, you know, it's kind of like, it's a very difficult situation that you're in, all right? You're in a very difficult situation that you're in. You're fighting a war, people are really dying, and people are really skimming off the top. You can't not fight that war because people are skimming off the top. You need to keep pushing that stuff out there. So, sorry, so I will come on to this comment now. Shaky Jakey is saying the finale is when they link us all. Yeah, so can you imagine it now? We all click onto universal basic income because the economy is broken. The economy is broken, and we've gotten, everybody needs universal basic income because nobody's got any money. All the infrastructure is broken. All the industry's gone. All the businesses are gone. And we're just going to be turned into consumers. Literally, you guys have watched that movie, haven't you? They live, we live, they live. Where it's Roddy Piper. He never did a movie after that. You know where he puts the glasses on? You know when he puts the glasses on and he can see all these aliens and stuff, Oh, I don't know what they are. You never find out what they are. And when he looks at things like the billboards and the commercials and stuff, he just says, obey, consume, pay your taxes. King is saying Ukraine is the most corrupt country in the world. No, it's not. I think it's like I think the most corrupt country is like Nigeria. Ukraine is 104 out of 180. But listen, here in Britain, we're like number 10. So like nobody we're number 10. Who is paying for this ski resort? You, Debbie, you probably are. British taxpayers are probably paying for it. British taxpayers. War makes money for the elites. War generates a lot of money, guys. It does. War generates a lot of money for a lot of people. James is saying, I can tell people what was in the... It's frightening. I didn't take them no chance. PC is saying, never trusted Zelensky. If you look at where Zelensky came from, I don't know if you guys know this. Zelensky was an actor, a comedian, and he had a show. I can't remember who he had a show called like Accidental Prime Minister or something, Accidental President. Sorry, I might be wrong on that, but basically that was that was what the show was called. Or like, do you know what? Let me Google this. Servant of the People. I think that was it. Servant of the People. Sorry, Servant of the People. So Zelensky did this this show called Servant of the People, or People's Servant. Sorry, Servant of the People. Now, this came out of nowhere. This started in 2015, I think, maybe 2014, maybe even around about that time. And it came from nowhere. It was promoted. It was pushed. They won all the awards. And then just out the blue, Zelensky starts a political party called Servant of the People. He gets into power, and you know, it's just a very and in that show that he was on, what he was he was as an actor. The premise of that show was he was an accidental president. You know, people just voted for him, and you know, and that's where we are now. That's where we are. He is the, you know, he's the president of you know, he's the president of Ukraine. You know, and I am going to get. I don't want to say too much because I want to do a live stream on this later on when I get more information. Shaky Jake is saying something was an upgrade to our bodies. It's why so many were ill before the shot, and your body is fighting to survive to make sure your mind is good. Guys, these are some wild stuff. There's some wild stuff going on here. You know, there's some wild stuff. There's some wild theories going on here. I'm not going to discount any of them. I'm not going to discount any of these theories because, listen, if you guys called me out a few times. You said to me, he's a gay dancer. I have seen his dancing. I'm not going to count anything out. I remember you guys telling me that there were foreign soldiers coming in on secret flights into the United Kingdom, and I remember saying, no, that's all fake. That's all fake news, ladies and gentlemen. That's not real. That's fake. Turns out, yeah, you guys were right. You guys were right. So listen, guys, I want to give you guys a little bit more context to I want to give you guys a little bit more context to this you know. I want to give you guys a little bit more context. Now, I'm in the headlines of this live stream. I've said billions are missing. Now, the reason I've said billions are missing is, first of all, because from what I'm hearing on the ground is that billions are missing. Also, former U.S. National Security Advisor Michael Flynn has been calling for Zelensky's arrest over broader embezzlement schemes, potentially worth tens of billions. Now, that's out on the mainstream, so I can repeat that. Now, I want to go into this a little bit further because, like, here in the United Kingdom, we're being told, and listen, guys, so I'm like torn at the moment. I'm British. I understand how much we're getting sucked dry. I've got friends in Ukraine. I understand how bad that situation is for the people of Ukraine and how wrong it is. I understand the amount of money that's being embezzled. So I'm like, I can see all sides of this argument. I can see all sides of these dynamics, So I want to talk about the scandals, tentacles, and, they reach deep into Ukraine's power structure. So I am going to focus on what's out on the mainstream at the moment. So Zelensky's in a circle. This guy, Yermak, who's just resigned, the chief of staff, he wasn't just an aide, he was the gatekeeper. He was shaping appointments, media narratives, and diplomacy. His exit was, he's no doubt caused a vacuum at a very precarious time, with Zelensky already facing domestic fatigue after nearly 4 years of war. It echoes earlier scandals like the 23, the dismissal of the defense minister over inflated, I think it was like egg prices for troops, but this one is a lot closer to the presidency. This is a lot closer to Zelensky. This is like his right-hand man and a good friend of his. And I can only speculate right now, ladies and gentlemen, until I find these articles on the mainstream media. I can only speculate that Zelensky has been taking a cut. I can only speculate that at this point. Now, the energy sector vulnerabilities, this ties into Joe Biden. It does, guys. This ties into Joe Biden. It ties into Hunter Biden. It ties into US. Because I can remember, look, guys, I've got an ear close to the ground with the energy sector in Ukraine. For those of you guys who don't know, I missed out on a deal with when Hunter Biden went out there and he was buying all these gas fields up, particularly in Poltava. So I understand that, and I was watching this. So, right, I'll come on to that actually. So, Energatom, which is a Ukrainian state-owned nuclear energy company, generates over half of Ukraine's energy and has been targeted by Russian strikes. That is true. Diverted funds could have weakened the defense against such attacks, tying corruption directly to national security. So what they're saying is there were inflated prices, and this is not me, guys, although I did tell you this was coming weeks ago. They've been signing contracts to repair and refurbish and buy kit and equipment for the energy sector. Now, the energy sector is one of those things that didn't get as much scrutiny because people are like, right, we need that energy sector working, right? Yeah, we're going to get it working. Oh, everybody's looking. And I'll tell you this, guys, the arms industry, the weapons supply industry is the most heavily regulated. It's the most heavily regulated industry on earth. It is. It's the most heavily regulated industry on earth. If you guys want to know where real corruption goes, I'll tell you this, guys. This is how it works, right? This is how it works. So, children in need. I would say that is corruption. I would say children in need is a corruption racket. This is my opinion, guys, my own speculation and my own opinion, all right? I would say children in need is a racket. It's a corruption scam. That's what I'm saying. Do you know why I'm saying that? Because this is how charities work. Now, I used to work in Syria. I'm not going to tell you who for, but it was like a really large organization. And when I was in Syria, I was working for a charity and they get donations. Now they get government donations, they get private donations, they do fundraisers, and people give them money for free. Now, this is the scam. Here's the scam, ladies and gentlemen. Those fundraisers, so those people who raise the funds, they take a cut. Yeah, so now you're seeing the corruption, right? So let's just say, for example, in country X, they have a fundraiser. They put up this fundraiser and say, we're raising funds for this organization. We're raising funds for this organization. Look at all the good work they're doing. Okay, take my money. They show crying kids, malnutrition kids, and that stuff is bad and it pulls on your heartstrings, guys. It does, but I know. Or they might show a donkey with its head down, and people donate millions to these causes. Now, when you donate to that cause, there will be a fundraiser. They're the fundraisers. So they may take 40, 50% of all money raised as admin. They've got to pay the celebrities to come on there and do their little shit. They've got to pay all sorts of crazy stuff, so they generate money for themselves. And when they've taken that 50%, they send that money out. Now, here's the scam. Here's how the scam works, right? Once that fundraiser has passed over that money, they do not want any negativity coming back. They don't, because if any negativity comes back, like embezzlement or whatever, that's going to look bad on them. So what they do is They never audit that shit. They just say, right, we've taken our cut. I don't give a flying fuck what you do with that. Just take that money and do what you want. And then this money gets just like, it just gets burned. It literally gets burnt on nothing. I used to work in an office in Syria, and I think there was 20 expats, and everybody was on like really good salaries. You know, and of those guys, listen, of those 20 expats, so, you know, I'm probably not expats, so the international team, basically, in a villa in Syria. Of those 20 people in that villa, guess how many people actually went out and did like humanitarian stuff of the 20? Well, there was me, obviously. You know, I went out. I was a security manager, so I went out and I just like did my own shit. But I didn't really do any, like, I didn't do any humanitarian stuff. I didn't go and, you know, teach any, you know, lessons or anything. I'll give you a clue. I'll give you a clue. It's more than 0, but less than 2. Any mathematicians out there, guys? More than 0, but less than 2? More than 0, but less than 2? Yeah, it was 1. There was 1 person that went out. Now, listen, guys, I'm not saying that Syrians are corrupt. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying Arabs are corrupt at all. I'm not saying that. I'm asking you guys, I'm going to ask you guys a question right now, okay? So, what this guy used to do once a week, he used to go to his classroom, like, not far away. I think it was on, like, a Thursday. He used to go to this classroom, and he used to teach 12 people, all right? 12 people. Do you know what? It might be more, actually. It doesn't matter. It's an arbitrary number. I think it was 12, but now I'm thinking when I used to go there with him, there looked to be more than 12 people there. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Let's just say it was 12 people. So he used to go there and he used to teach 12 people, all right? He used to teach them, you know, landmine awareness, whatever, you know. And then he would pay them. He would give them, I think he used to give them $5 or $10 for turning up to the class, right? Just as like, you know, and that, you know, that's a fair amount of money in Syria. Now, here's the scam. Do you know what he would do then? He would get each one of those people. He would say, right, you guys are my, you know, my top tier guys. I want you guys to now go away and teach this lesson to another 12 people each. And when you come back next week, write the names down on a piece of paper, and I will give you $10 for each name that you've taught this to. And then I want you to give that money to those people. Are you guys seeing what I'm seeing? Yeah? Are you guys seeing what I'm seeing? So when those guys came back for their next lesson next week with all the names, so they had like 12 times 12 names, and he paid them $120 each plus their 10. So each time they came in to get the lesson, they got given $130 that they're supposed to disseminate between, you know, the people of that town. I'm going to ask you guys a question right now. Do you think that those people, A, went and taught that lesson to 12 people I think he gave them money for a classroom as well. Do you think, A, they used to teach that lesson to 12 people, or B, just pocket that money and write down any 12 names? Which of those two scenarios, which one do you think would happen, guys? You know, which one do you think would happen? You know, it's a massive scam. It's a massive scam, guys. Okay. And another thing that they did, you know, they were, you know, I was out there. We was doing, you know, we did do, you know, the organization did do some big projects. They were doing this project, and this town had been absolutely bombed to shit by ISIS. It had, guys. It'd been absolutely bombed to shit by ISIS. So the NGO had gone out there, and they're reworking this town. You know, they're reworking this town, and they are, you know, they're reworking the town, and oh, hang on a minute. Yeah. So reworking this town, and, you know, they're not allowed to employ people, so they do something called cash for work. So we had people like painting the paving slabs and sweeping up. And I remember walking around, and so my Arabic is Baghdadabic. I speak Baghdadabic. It's very, I speak with a Baghdad accent, which I think is cool. When I speak Arabic, I speak with a Baghdad accent, which I think is cool. I was in Dubai, and I was asking, you know, is it the Al Jumeirah Mall? I think it is in Dubai. And I wanted this very specific type of shoe, and I'm asking somebody for where I can get these shoes. And he said, "Oh, Baghdadabic." And I went, "What?" He said, "You are Baghdadi?" I went, "No." He said, "You are speaking with Baghdad." And I was like, "Oh, right." I thought, you know what, I'll take that. I think that's pretty cool. Anyway, what I'm getting at here is different dialects of Arabic. And if Silly Galard is still on here, she'll agree with me. Or if there's anybody from the Middle East, like, you know, people can speak Arabic, but like there are so many different dialects of Arabic. It's not one unified language. Like, you know, people from different parts of the Middle East, they can't fully understand each other because there's lots of different dialects. Anyway, what I'm getting here, guys, back to Syria. I was in Syria, and I was walking around this like football pitch with the project manager, and there was a lot of ladies there, Syrian ladies, and they were like cutting back these bushes that were overgrown because they wanted to get the football because they wanted to get the football pitch up and running because they wanted like the kids to be playing football, which is really good. Anyway, I remember this. The project manager going up to a woman and saying, "Oh, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?" Because she was obviously having to write stuff down to, like, you know, she was having to write stuff down to, she was having to write stuff down for a report to send that back. So the donors, where they get their money from, you know, where the donors get their money from, it's, it just looks good. Anyway. So she went to this woman and she said, "Oh, we was in Mem Beach." Well, yeah, we was in Mem Beach. And she spoke to this woman and she asked her where she'd come from. And she says, "I've just come from Al Raqqa." Well, Al Raqqa is like where it was all kicking off, where Islamic State, where, you know, they were removing stuff from people's bodies and sticking. It was crazy, guys. Okay, it was crazy. So she said to her, "Oh, why have you come from Al Raqqa?" And she said, "Oh, I've come up from Al Raqqa because, you know, I knew there was work here, and I just want to get paid." And the project manager, through the interpreter, and again, this is where, you know, I didn't understand the full conversation, but I understood the key words. So she was saying, she was saying, "Okay, so if you tell me something bad has happened to you, like you lost your sons, or you've been, the thing that sounds like grape," and the word in Arabic for no is very specific. It's like, you know, it's all la, which is like, you know, la shukran habibi. It's just no. It's, you know, I don't know, that didn't happen. So she said, "No, that didn't happen." So nothing bad had happened to this woman. So then the project manager pressed her again. So she said, "Well," these are the words of the project manager, and she was speaking in English. She said, "Well, if you tell me something really bad has happened to you, I can get more money to help your community more." And then the interpreter asked her again, and she just said, no, nothing bad's happened. Nothing bad's happened. And the interpreter turned round and said to the project manager, "Yes, something really bad is happening." And the interpreter just lied, just blatantly lied. And, you know, they will have said that something happened to her, like she lost her sons, or I don't know. I don't know what she actually wrote up. But what happens then is that they took pictures of that lady. That lady will then be sent as a case study back to the head office about what your donations, how they are helping those people. And it's a total fucking fabrication, guys. It's a total fabrication. You know, it's a total fabrication. Look, guys, and I'm not saying that all international aid works like this. I'm not. I'm saying that from my experience, that's all I've ever seen. It's why I don't work for it's why I don't work for these big, these big international companies anymore. I've got too much of a conscience, guys. I've got too much of a conscience. And another thing, like, so that case study will have then been sent to the people who are donating to make them feel good. And those people who are donating, never in a million years are they going to send an auditor out to Syria to find that woman and say, excuse me, love, is all this shit true? Never going to happen. Never in a million years going to happen. Never. When Zelensky was in the comedy series, he had a dream that he would be president of Ukraine. This is predictive programming. I don't know what Zelensky was dreaming. I don't know what Zelensky was dreaming. Mezalo is saying 3 billion given to rebuild schools in Afghanistan. One school near the capital was partially renovated, then shut down. Okay, right. Do you want me to give you inside information on this? Do you guys want me to give you inside information on this? I'll give you inside information, okay? So I had a friend who worked for a security company who was rebuilding these schools in, I don't know if it was that money. I'm going to assume it was because, look, guys, okay, so I'm going to tell you, I had a friend who was working on a security company and they were commissioning rebuilding schools in Afghanistan. And this is what he told me. So he was going out there with the US, so I think it's the US Corps of Engineers, which is a civilian entity, and they employed private security. Anyway, so he was out there with the US Corps of Engineers, right? And they awarded the contract. They awarded the contract to this Afghan developer who said he was going to build a school. I can't remember the numbers he said. I think they awarded him like $1 million, right? I think they awarded him $1 million. Now, this is what people don't understand. They awarded him this contract for $1 million to build this school. All right, so they went back to the site where this school was supposed to be built, and there was like a little cabin. So they're thinking, right, okay, what's going on here? Somebody's having my pants down. Anyway, so it turns out they went back and they found the guy. They phoned him up or whatever. They went for a meeting with him, this Afghani, and they said, right, where's my $1 million? And he said, oh, well, I sold the contract. He said, what do you mean you sold the contract? And in Afghan law, you can sell the contract. So you can sell that contract. So somebody bought, and it's totally legal. So I don't know what the numbers are involved in here, guys. So he got $1 million contract, and then he sold that contract for like, I don't know, 500 grand or whatever it was. So somebody came up to him and took that work off him and paid him 500 grand. I think that's how or he gave him 500 grand. I can't remember how it was, but basically he sold the contract that he got given £1 million for. He subcontracted that for 500 grand. So he gave somebody else 500 grand, and then that's his now. I may be slightly wrong on this. And in Afghan law, that is legal. So basically, he didn't do anything and he made 500 grand, all right? Just for nothing. Guess what? Afghan law, he then did exactly the same. And it went down and down and down and down. So they paid £1 million for this school to be built, or dollars or whatever it was. And it had been sold and sold and sold, or bought and bought and bought, whichever way you're looking. Until at the end of it, you got like a little brick building built for like 20 grand or something. So like, and people don't understand this is where a lot of the money goes. Like, listen, guys, I've worked in these war zones all my life, like literally all my life, the last 27 since 99, I guess. So whatever that is. You know, I've worked in these war zones, and the amount of waste and loss is phenomenal. It's phenomenal, you know, absolutely phenomenal. Let me jump down, guys. Let me jump down. Band again is saying, best charity I know, Active Patriot in Grimsby. He goes out at nights and feeds them fish and chips, gloves, socks and hats, bits and bobs. Listen, guys, I'm not saying that all charities are bad. There's some really good charities out there. What I'm saying is the way that these people raise money, and, you know, this is my opinion. I would say that if people looked in on, you know, when they do children in, do you know what? Let me just Google this. Let me just Google this. No, so what is it? Sorry, admin cost. Let me generalize. Right. There's no real answer. It's wildly varied, but you know, a normal admin cost of, I mean, you know, and you do have to spend a lot of this money, you know, on administration, and you know, you do, but I would say a lot of it is embezzled as well. Maybe not embezzled, but you know, there's varying levels of corruption. First of all, you've got like a lot of people think that incompetence and cock up is corruption, but it's not. It's really not. Like, you can imagine some like Labour councillors for Doncaster. Like, do you think they know how to run it? They don't know how to do anything. You know, and then when you get a contracts guy going in there from the private sector, they are going to have them over a barrel, Garrel. They're going to absolutely have them over a barrel. So, you know, a lot of that is cock up. You know, there is a lot of cock ups and incompetencies, you know, and you know, people think it's corruption. When we talk about, you know, the PPE, the inflated prices for PPE, I don't think that's corruption. The Labour Party have said it's corruption, but look, you know, I said this earlier on. You guys can imagine, right? You're there, global pandemic. You don't know, at that time in early 2020, nobody knew what was happening. It was like, fuck me, this is coming. You know, there was a global shortage of PPE. Are you really, like, realistically, if you needed something really quick, are you going to send your contracts department to write a tender to discuss with business leaders and government organizations what they need, what type, what specification, get that written up, put that on the government website, you know, as an, an invite to tender or whatever it is, an ITT, and then receive the tenders, go through the it's going to take fucking 4 months before any money is like allocated. It's just not going to happen. Not going to happen. You've got somebody standing there, and I've been in these situations, guys, where people are like, right, we need this and we need it now. What you do is you say, right, I can get that for you now, if I know somebody or whatever. But you would inflate that price. You have to inflate that price, guys. You really do. You have to inflate that price. And when people are looking in and they're saying, oh, look, but he's inflated this price. Yes, you have to. Because if there's a cock up, if there's a miscommunication, if something goes wrong at customs, if you have to pay someone off, and you do have to do these things. When you're like a mid-level, when you're like a middleman, you have to deal with a load of shit. You have to deal with all this shit, you know, because the client, they don't want to deal with that shit. They're paying you to deal with that shit. And you have to deal with them, the producers. And the producers just want to get as much money as you can. And you're like in the middle and you're like trying to fucking deal with these guys. You're trying to deal with these guys. And it's difficult. So you have to inflate that price. So, but you know, when we look at what's happening in Ukraine right now, I don't think it's, you I don't think it's you know, what's happening with the energy sector. And I will get you guys I will get you guys a better update on what's happening in Ukraine later on today. Silly Galordi is saying the House of Cards shows what's happening in UN charity organizations. I've not seen that. Bandagain is saying, I heard the British Legion takes around 95%. Well, I don't know how much they take hang on a minute. a message on, I don't know what that platform is there, but it's a plug in something else. Where was you going? Yeah. I know it's the Royal British Legion. I know they have something ridiculous, like I want to say 14 million, but I think they've got like 14 million in reserve. Like, so what are they doing with the money? And you see how charities, they say they're not for profit, but the word profit means money that's left over. Now, if you pay all your staff 100 grand a month, sounds like profit to me, right? Charities are a scam, guys. Charities are a scam. Charities start at home. Listen, Bandagain, I'm not saying that this is bent, but Bandagain, if you put your look, guys, I'm not defending the government, guys. I'm not defending the government at all. I'm not defending Matt Hancock. I'm not defending anything. What I'm saying is, put yourself in that situation. All right. You're there, global pandemic, all sorts of shit's going down. Your brother or your brother-in-law, someone you trust. Like I say, guys, how many times have you heard me say this? Those bits of paper you write and sign, they don't mean anything. It's the trust that means everything. You're there, global pandemic, global pandemic. Global pandemic, Matt Hancock, he needs to get as much PPE as possible, and his brother-in-law is like, hey, Matt, I can get this. It may have been corruption, guys. It may have been corruption, but, what is the solution? What is the solution? Like, look, guys, I'm not defending Matt Hancock because I think he's a weasel. I think he's a weasel. I think he's an absolute weasel. I'm just giving you guys my honest knowledge, inside knowledge to how this works. You're standing there, right? Global pandemic is coming. Nobody has got any, nobody's got any PPE. You're seeing all these scenes from Italy and China, and you're like, oh, fuck, we need PPE. Is Matt Hancock going to say to someone he trusts, who's telling him right there and then, in that moment, Matt, I can get you this now? Is he going to say, no, I don't want it now. I need to speak to the contracts department. We need to put this out to tender, and then we need to scrutinize each and every tender. So apply for the tender. It's just not going to happen, guys. I've been in those I've been in those fast-moving situations, and it's very difficult to, deal with it. Mezzalori is saying the puppy appeal had 60 million in reserve while veterans are homeless. Wow, I didn't realize that. I knew it was a lot of money. I didn't realize it was a lot of money. CRF is saying, look into the charity set up by Jewish group pushed by Ben Shapiro. Less than 1% went to the Jewish kids it was set up for. A lot of charities do this, guys. A lot of the charities do, you just need to be careful. Like, I think one of the charities, one of the Black Lives Matter charities was set up by like an Aussie guy, like an Australian guy, and he just keeps all the money. I think he was Australian. Hancock's wife trusts the air. Have you seen that? Matt Hancock. Can you remember? Like, guys, listen, guys. I'll be quite clear. I think he's a weasel. I think he's an absolute weasel. But you've got to put yourself in these situations, right? There's There's, you know, and a lot of people shout corruption when it's not. You know, a lot of people shout corruption when it's a cock up. Lots of people shout corruption when it's, you know, when it's fair game, you know, when it is fair game. Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to close this down now. I'm going to close this down now. I was talking about the crux of this is being the billions missing in Ukraine. This, I told you guys this was going to break a couple of weeks ago. This is told you guys this was going to break I can't remember, like a couple of weeks ago. I told you this was about to break. It's involving the energy sector right now, but this is going to escalate, guys. This is going to escalate, and this could. I'm saying this, guys. Once the strands begin to ravel, this could see the end to Zelensky. It could, guys. It could see the end to Zelensky, and I think it should. You know, because ultimately you've got young Ukrainians, young men and women, trading blood for time, because that's what all they do. They're trading blood for time. You know, trying to hold off the Russians for as long as possible. And at the top end, you've got people embezzling millions, you know, potentially billions. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close this down now. I may jump on later on in the afternoon, because I want to start live streaming in the house where we've got the Christmas tree up now. So I might jump on because I've got some new microphones to test and that. So I might jump on later, but I will just be on. I would just be on. Go on. I would just be on. I would just be on YouTube. Who will replace Zelensky? I don't know. But I did have an idea earlier on, but I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say who I think it will, but it could be a woman. It could be a woman, guys. It could be a woman. That's all I'm going to say. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to close this down now. I'll catch you guys later. I may be on this afternoon. I may not, but I will be back on this evening at 8. And I hope to be able to give you guys I hope to be able to give you guys an update on what's happening, an exclusive update on what's happening in Ukraine, because I'm waiting to speak to my friend out there to give me the lowdown. Anyway, guys, I'll catch you guys later.